Hello, and welcome to the Green Tea and Green, it's the Green Bag Lunch and Green Tea webinar series. This is our 10th webinar. Apologies for the technical delay, but we'll get started. We do have a few housekeeping things, as always, to take care of before we begin. I'm Meg Edelman. My colleague Barbara Sattler will be on the line shortly. And this webinar, of course, works best using Chrome. If you're having any technical difficulties, the first thing to do is close it all out, the platform, and restart your computer. You want to also make sure all of your open windows are closed. And this webinar is being archived on our Annie website. So please feel free, if you've missed any of our series, to go back there and check out previous webinars on this subject. And if you have questions for our presenters today, please record those in our chat room area to the left-hand side of your screen. We'll leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of the presentation to go through those questions and make sure that our presenters can answer them. And of course, in order to receive your CE certification, email will be sent to you with a presentation evaluation. You'll need to complete that, and then you'll get an email returned to you with your CE certification included. Please give us a few days to get this to you. It always takes us a few days to turn that around for you. So without further ado, we are very excited today to have two leaders in the organic food sector here in California talk about the roadmap to organic California and beyond. First, I'd like to introduce Rebekah Weber. Rebekah has worked on the intersection of environmental and agriculture policy for a decade. She's the policy director at CCOF, California Certified Organic Farmers Organization, and she advocates for organic agriculture as part of the solution to protecting public health, restoring the environment, and growing the economy. And prior to joining CCOF, Weber served as environmental advocate focused on cleaning up Lake Champlain. She was engaged in farmer outreach as a Fulbright Fellow in Nepal, and worked in agricultural policy for the United States Senator Patrick Leahy. She also holds a master's degree in environmental law and policy from the Vermont Law School. We also have Laetitia Benador, and she is a food systems researcher, writer, and farmer. And as the CCOF Research Fellow, Benador spearheads the roadmap to an organic California project, which is a first of its kind research project that investigates how organic is a solution to California's toughest challenges. Prior to joining, she lived and worked on organic and biodynamic farms. And, in California and Oregon, where she experienced farming and economic models that work for all life, allowing her to reimagine possibilities for creating a just world. She earned her BA in political economy at the University of California, Berkeley, specializing in the intersection of global economic development and agriculture. So with that, we'd love to welcome and thank Laetitia and Rebekah, and Laetitia will begin our presentation today.
Thank you, Megan, and hello, everyone. We are really excited to be with you today. And first, just want to extend our heartfelt thanks for everything that you're doing during this COVID pandemic. Just really, really appreciate you all. And just beyond that, I just spent some time over at the Annie website, and it is just thrilling to see the connection between health and how food is grown, and this kind of intersectional thinking. It just got me so excited to speak with you today. So thank you so much for being here and being present. So today We will be discussing how organic food systems are a health solution. We'll kind of start with the basics. What is organic farming and food production? What makes organic different? What is organic certification? We will briefly take a dive into the science behind organic. And then Rebekah, I'll turn it over to Rebekah, and she will walk you through some next steps for putting organic to work to protect our public health. And we're also really looking forward to your questions. I know that organic certification can be a little complicated, and so we are here as a resource for you, and looking forward to any questions you might have around that. So who's California Certified Organic Farmers? Just to get you a little bit grounded in who we are. Back in the late 1960s, early 1970s, groups of farmers in California and also in pockets of the East Coast began getting together and really discussing this type of agriculture that was not based on a chemical inputs, but rather an agriculture that worked with nature and studied nature carefully. And these farmers realized that they needed a way to tell consumers exactly what they were doing, because the organic food they were producing was now starting to gain popularity, and it was moving out of farmers markets where the farmers were able to explain directly to the eater. And so kind of out of these discussions, the farmers worked together to create what would eventually become a federal organic certification, and a label that we can all find on fruits and vegetables in the market today. So today at CCOF, we provide that organic certification. We are accredited on behalf of the US Department of Agriculture to carry out organic certification. We also are a member farmer-based organization, so we do advocacy and education, and we also have a foundation where we provide training and financial assistance to our farmers, and we also foster the next generation of organic farmers. So move next slide. So today we'll be focusing on this project that we began in 2018 called the Roadmap to an Organic California. That is a big research project, the first of its kind, and it really asks the question, how does organic help us solve our toughest problems today? So we began with examining the full gamut of scientific research, peer-reviewed literature, over 300 studies to get a full picture of what the science says on organic. And then the part 2 of our project, which Rebekah will presents organic as a strategy to ensure our climate resilience, our economic security, and our health equity. So what is organic? Organic, it is farming, but it is also much more. Organic is holistic. It is not defined by a single practice or a single input the farmer might fertilize with. Organic farming is really based on mimicking the balance found in ecological systems. So it's fundamentally a systems approach that looks at an entire farm as a living ecosystem, and the role of the organic farmer is to enhance the natural processes that ecosystems already use to sustain and regulate themselves. And this all begins with the soil. Organic farmers build healthy soils as the foundation for growing healthy crops and healthy people. So organic certification, like I said, it's more than a label, it's a federal law. So any agricultural product sold, labeled, advertised as organic in the US must be produced in compliance with the Federal Organic Food Production Act of 1990. Some of the key standards include maintaining soil quality and the quality of all natural resources on the farm. This includes water sources. This includes any wild areas on the farm, like a wetland or a forest. This also includes wildlife on the farm. This means that monocropping, or the practice of planting just one crop, is not allowed in organic because it negatively impacts soil health and biodiversity. In terms of animal production, farm animals on organic farms must graze on organic pasture at least 1/3 of the year. So they spend 1/3 of their life grazing. But the entirety of their diet must be grass-based, of either certified organic fresh grass or hay. And we'll get into some of the health benefits that follow that management a little bit later. But some of the other key points are animals must have year-round access to outdoors, must be allowed to engage in natural behaviors. You cannot feed organic animals any antibiotics, hormones, or synthetic veterinary treatments. But that doesn't mean that an organic farmer can't do anything to heal their animals. They have an entire toolbox of organic treatments. And if those fail, it is really important to note that an organic farmer is obligated to use whatever they must in order to heal the animal. However, if an antibiotic, for example, is used, that animal can no longer be sold as organic. Some other key points of organic are a 3-year transition period where farmers rebuild the soil of the farm before it's certified organic, and every single organic product is traceable back to the field in which it was grown. And in terms of processed foods, organic processed foods are different because they are made with only 100 processing aids compared to about over 3,000 allowed in conventional foods. And a number of those food additives are prohibited because they cause adverse health outcomes ranging from cancer to reproductive disorders. So that is kind of the bare bones, what is organic? And now we'll start linking back to health. So the social determinants of health, I'm sure you're all very familiar with. And when we use a comprehensive lens like this to look at health, we can actually see how deeply connected human health is to how food is grown. And looking at this chart, we see many categories here that are influenced by the food system. So things like air and water quality, housing, employment, income, diet. All of these things are influenced by how we grow our food. And oftentimes these impacts can be negative, issues like pesticide and nitrate contamination of water, the depletion of soils all over the globe, massive species extinction, the decline of pollinators, that inequitable access to healthy foods, and other negative impacts. But today we'll really be focusing on how organic food systems can positively impact health. So given that about 80% of our health is determined by factors outside of healthcare, where does organic stand in all of this? I won't really focus too much on this chart, but I will just briefly kind of walk you through what we see here, which is that organic really touches us from the morning when we wake up and take our first drink of water, to going to school, to going to the hospital, going about our daily lives. Organic is really present in all of that. And we'll see some of that in the science here. Oh, black. Oh no. Maybe I went too fast. Okay, here we go. So digging into a little bit of the science. Next slide. The first way in which organic impacts health is through the healthfulness of organic foods. So lack of access to healthy foods threatens public health and drives health inequities. We kind of all know the issues associated with this, but I do want to say that structural racism and discrimination have meant that frontline communities, and often people of color, LGBTQ, indigenous peoples, low-income communities, have been facing structural barriers that give them lower access to healthy foods and result in disproportionately high rates of diet-related diseases. So organic foods have healthier nutritional profiles, as found in 6 out of 8 of the currently available meta-analyses, which examines hundreds of crop comparison studies. So it looks at an organic blueberry versus a conventional blueberry, zucchini, strawberries, all of these things. And if you look at the full picture of nutritional science in organic, you will see that the majority of it concludes organic foods are more nutritious. And one of the interesting statistics to come out of that is that an organic diet actually provides 20 to 40% more antioxidants overall. That's without increasing your caloric intake. And then looking at the science behind organic meat and milk, we see healthier nutritional profiles as well because we have more beneficial omega-3 fatty acids, more antioxidants, and higher mineral content. This is because organic livestock are fed that grass-based diet. And in fact, because organic cows are grazing, it means that organic farmers do not have to supplement the cow feed with synthetic vitamins in order to ensure adequate vitamin concentrations in milk, which is the typical practice in conventional dairies. Okay. Oh. The second way in which organic impacts our health is by providing a healthy environment. Organic food is grown without synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, which pollute drinking water and harm human health. And in terms of health equity here, Latino children are 91% more likely than white children to attend schools with the highest pesticide exposure. Latino and low-income communities face disproportionately higher rates of drinking water contamination. And this is all very costly. The state of California spends millions of dollars to remediate polluted environments. So organic farming, I'll kind of walk you through this chart. If organic farming, where we are right now, is this 9.1 million acres, this brown dot, and if we increase our organic acreage in California from our 4% right now to just 10%, we can see a little decrease in the amount of farmland treated with cancer-causing pesticides. And of course, under an 100% organic farming scenario, we would have 0 acres of farmland with these types of chemicals on them. And finally, one of the largest benefits of organic is its impact on water quality. So by building healthy soils, organic soils can actually hold on to nutrients and water better. And that means that less nutrients and less water are either leaching down through the soil or running off of the surface and polluting waterways. All right. So climate change, everybody's favorite topic. Climate change threatens public health not only directly through rising temperatures and wildfires, but also by interrupting the normal functioning of ecosystems that provide essential resources for human health, like clean air and water, like fertile soils for growing food, and like natural buffers that temper the impacts from wildfire and flooding and drought. Organic. So in the US, about 40% of the energy used to produce food is attributable to manufacturing synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. So, or by avoiding synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, organic avoids these emissions. And beyond that, organic farms also reduce emissions because organic soils have an increased capacity to hold carbon in the soil and to hold other nutrients in the soil and prevent them from turning into greenhouse gases. So here we can see in this chart that we are currently emitting about 20 billion pounds of greenhouse gas emissions in California on our cropland. If we were to move to just 10% of California's farmland being organic, we would already have a significant decrease in greenhouse gas emissions. But if all of California's land was farmed organically, we would see that our cropland would actually act as a huge sink for carbon, as a net sink. So that means that our cropland would be capturing much more carbon than it would be releasing. This is a little bit of a summary of how organic mitigates climate change. Organic farms are also better prepared to supply food under challenging conditions. There are studies looking at how organic farms perform under drought conditions and just generally under resource constraints. Because organic soils are alive and diverse, there is a more resilient system in the soil and also above ground that allows organic farms to better supply food under challenging conditions. And finally, food security. Organic agriculture can sustainably feed a growing world population. International scientists recently determined that if food waste and demand for livestock are reduced, organic agriculture can feed 9 billion people in 2050. Another global analysis that has compared 300 organic and conventional crops find that current organic yields can already supply the minimum calories needed per day, if not more. And so the general consensus, or the kind of the overarching conclusion that we made in our benefits report in analyzing all of the studies on food security is that organic agriculture can truly feed a growing world population while also minimizing the environmental harms associated with other agricultural systems. And finally, we have economic security, which, if we think back to that social determinants of health chart, your income and your work plays a huge role in your health. California is facing economic security, huge economic security, and that's only going to get worse moving out of COVID. Economic insecurity exacerbates inequity. Income inequality is at its highest in our state history. But economic insecurity also threatens food security. So very thin margins are threatening the viability of farms. And that means that our future ability to produce food is also threatened. Economic pressure is really driving farms to consolidate or go out of business, and is preventing the next generation of farmers from accessing land and starting farming businesses. So farmers today only receive 18 cents for every dollar that consumers spend on food, compared to 40 years ago when farmers received 40 cents for each dollar spent. So these low prices, combined with rising costs of production, actually result in about 60% of California's farms operating in the red in 2017 with net losses. And we do have some science that can help us understand how organic impacts economies. In a 2018 study that came out of the University of Pennsylvania, we see that when we compare hotspots of organic farming compared to hotspots of conventional agriculture, the areas where there's organic hotspots, that means there are large clusters of organic businesses present in that area. And, controlling for factors like wealth and other kind of factors that might influence a population's purchasing power, we do find that in areas of organic hotspots, there is lower poverty rates and higher median household income. Whereas if you look at the general agriculture hotspots, you can see that a general agriculture hotspot has no impact on the poverty rate, and it does have a little bit of an impact on the median household income, but not as much as organic. And if we compare the impact of organic on an economy compared to the impact of the Federal Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP and WIC, wonderful programs, we actually do see that organic has a comparative impact to SNAP in its ability to decrease poverty, and it does a better job than the WIC program. In addition, organic is also the fastest growing sector of the food market. So organic has been growing about at least double to 3 times the rate of conventional foods. And this is providing an incredible opportunity in rural and urban areas alike for new businesses and for entrepreneurship, and just providing opportunity in an agricultural and a food industry where it is very challenging to make it, as I said before, with the thin margins. So with all of that, I think that was my last slide. Oh, here we go. So with all of that, organic is integral to a healthy future, and all of the everything I've said so far can be found in the benefits report. We'll have a link at the end, and you can find links to all of the studies in that report. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Rebekah now.
Thank you, Laetitia. And thank you again, everyone, for being with us today and listening to our presentation on our roadmap project. Laetitia really walked you through the science and all of the benefits that organic really provides to our communities. And the next step was to think through, how do we put organic to work? How do we use organic? Not just for farmers, not just for people in the agricultural sector, but really thinking about organic as a bridge to all communities. Because the benefits should be, we believe, spread to all Californians, and really everyone, but we're using California as our model, as the #1 organic state. So we went about creating our policy report, which includes nearly 40 recommendations that policymakers can take to put organic to work, to foster climate resilience, to increase economic security, and to also improve health equity. So I wanted to, before we delve into policy, it's really interesting to look at the current landscape. There's this divide where on one hand, we know that 80% of Americans purchase organic. We know that organic is a fast-moving industry. It's now a $53 billion industry. And yet, on the other hand, when we look at our land and how our land is used, only 1% of US farmland is organic. And California, which is the leader in the nation, has only 4% of its land being farmed organically. And so there's this disconnect and this opportunity for consumers and eaters to really demand for more organic acreage, for more land to be put under organic management. And so our goal is to really build a bridge between farmers, farm worker communities, to all eaters across every community, people that are focused on health, people that are focused on climate, people that are focused on the economy, and to say, how can we build organic and increase organic acreage in order to really promote all of these benefits. So that leads us with the question of wanting to grow organic, again, as Laetitia said, in order to secure our future. But in order to do that, we really have to think through the question of how. How can we go about making sure that organic is not just a product that some have access to, but really thinking through what policies can we put into place so that the benefits of organic are seen by all Californians. And I have to admit that, we are pivoting during this time. We had, going into this legislative session, a number of asks that we made back in February. And the reality of it is with the current pandemic, we are shifting gears, recognizing that the state is really focused on the immediate health concerns, and our state legislators are back in session today for the first time in a while. And the number one question that they're going to address is how to support with the response to COVID-19, as well as how to move forward with a balanced budget. And so, our presentation today is really about wanting to connect with you moving forward on strategies to promote organic, but also recognizing that we do need to be nimble because of this changing landscape. And so I wanted to walk you through, and I apologize, I just wanted to get to the right slide. I wanted to walk you through a few of the policies that we're continuing to engage on. One is thinking about the work that California has done on its climate strategy. While California is investing in natural and working land solutions to climate change, through the Department of Agriculture, there is a program called the Healthy Soils Program, which is really meant to provide direct funding to farmers to implement practices that build healthy soils. But the challenge is that organic is not actually recognized in that program. While there's recognition that there is great potential for our working lands, there isn't specific mention of all of the science that backs up and says that organic is part of the solution to climate change. And so we're interested in specifically inserting a one option into the Healthy Soils Program that would fund and encourage farmers to transition their land to organic management. And so that is something that we had ongoing conversations with the Department of Agriculture with. We had a sign-on letter, and we are in conversation, continuing to have conversation with the Department of Agriculture to see when is the right time to pick that back up, recognizing that with the current pandemic, that isn't their number one priority at this moment, but that is certainly something that we will continue to engage on. Another policy that we're very interested in is thinking through the true cost of food. Many of our foods that we buy in the grocery stores actually have hidden costs associated with them, whether it's from toxic chemicals that are applied in their production and that lead to contribute to water contamination, whether it's the application, the overuse of antibiotics in the raising livestock. All of these have impacts that ripple across communities. And so part of our goal is to ask the legislature to have a hearing and to really understand and investigate what some of these hidden costs are to different approaches to food production. And so that is something that we will continue to pursue and hope that there could be a joint hearing between both the health committees as well as the agriculture committee. And finally, another policy that we continue to want to work on, although also recognize that budget is a huge issue right now. But that being said, we know that for our long-term health, it's critical to provide healthy food to our kids. And we know that school lunch provides such an important place of nutrition for so many children across California. And so with that, we are asking for the governor to prioritize school meals in this budget. And within that prioritization, we would like to see California grown organic food as a priority, so that when kids are showing up to school, they're getting food and they know that it's locally grown as well as healthy organic food. So that they are able to start their day and be productive and be exposed to the best quality of food that we can provide for them. And so that is a third policy that we're working on. It is, we have been sending letters to the governor with this request, and we would love to join forces and continue to engage with you on these three asks, both asking the Department of Agriculture on the Healthy Soils program, talking to the Chair Wood and Chair Eggman, Chair Wood of Health and Chair Eggman of the Committee of Agriculture on the Assembly side for a joint hearing on the true cost of food, as well as asking the governor to prioritize school food in the budget. Our ask is what we would like is to join forces and to work with you on these policy recommendations, recognizing that it is a changing landscape. And so our timing is a little up in the air. We had sent a joint coalition letter to the governor a few weeks ago on the school food. But for example, the Healthy Soils asks there needs to be a little bit more time. So that's not something that's necessarily happening immediately, but we would love to stay in touch. And if any of these are things that you would be interested in engaging on, we would love to collaborate. Those are just a few of the policies in our policy report that I wanted to highlight because of their connection to overall health, as well as policies that we are engaging on currently to move forward. And with that, I will leave you with our email addresses. So please do be in touch. We would love to hear from you, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. So let me take a look.
Thank you, Rebekah and Laetitia. That's very nice. Barbara, I see that you're on the line. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize. I was a little bit late, so Laetitia, I missed that beginning part of your presentation, but I just wanted to thank both of you for joining us. A couple of things for you to know. First of all, we would be delighted to collaborate with you because a lot of the things that you're interested in California explicitly, we're aligned with, and we've signed on to and have been working with the California Climate and Agriculture CalCan network, I guess, and is. And they are promoting many of the same things that you're promoting, obviously. And if you do wind up at some point when the world stops shaking, have hearings on the true cost of food, Megan and I would definitely be interested in participating and perhaps giving testimony or participating in the hearings as part of the Alliance of Nurses for Healthy Environments. And one thing that I heard that and I think this was Laetitia, when you talked about, I guess this is an extraction from your report, about the differential impact that SNAP versus WIC has on poverty. When I saw that, while there may be numbers that support that, it worries me when anybody suggests that one policy might not be working so well, because we know that WIC does work really well for a variety of other things, including improving the metrics of newborns, in terms of early childhood development, other things. And so from a health perspective, that's a different metric than whether it actually addressed poverty. But that metric is really important to not diminish. So just wanted to note that. And then I'd just love to hear if there are any other questions that others on the phone or on the Zoom meeting have before I ask more of my own. So are there any in the chat?
Not yet, Barbara. So if you have a question, perhaps you'll answer it for others.
And please feel free to add this. Can you describe to us? We've got a number of folks that are on the call that are from other states. Do other states have as robust an organization as you do? And do you work together, in some national coalition?
Sure. So CCOF, we do work to some extent at the federal level. We are highly focused on California right now. We also partner with federal partners such as the Organic Trade Association, NSAC, who work at the federal level and work with partners across the country. And so while we're focused in California, we are a part of these broader national coalitions to advance organic. Yeah.
And I can add, there are definitely robust efforts happening in states all across the United States, especially in kind of the East Coast. That's a hotspot for organic. And I think Pennsylvania just passed some really important legislation for organic. Maine is also pretty strong. And there is a lot of room to work at the state level in every state to expand and support organic through the states, especially because sometimes that can move a little better than at the federal level.
Good. Is there one place where the folks on the call could find the names and contact information of the state organizations? Or do they just need to look it up?
Well, I would invite anyone who wants some more information to just send us an email and we can get you connected with the right people.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a question here, I guess for Laetitia, I think. You presented this statistic that 80% of Americans eat organic. And with only 1% of the farms organic nationally, how is that large demand supplied to that much proportion of the American public?
Yeah, it seems like a large disparity. So that 80% statistic comes from a consumer poll, and it means that an American, someone who's counted in that might eat organic once a week or once a month. or a few times a year. So not necessarily every day. And we also have a pretty decent amount of organic imports coming into the US. And there's actually particular crops like grains that we cannot actually produce enough of domestically. And so we are importing a substantial amount.
And is the source of organic for the big box stores, is it really, can you rely on it being truly organic?
Sure.
Follow-up question.
Sure. So any product that has the organic label on it has gone through the exact same process of being certified. There are a number of certification agencies that certify on behalf of the US Department of Agriculture, and they are all subject to the exact same federal guidelines. So yes, it is absolutely the same.
And I'll just add that each part of that certification is an annual inspection. And so all certifying bodies such as CCOF do go out and go onto the farm and provide an inspection.
Thank you. So I actually personally had a follow-up question about, some criticism probably out there is that organic does allow some level of scaling or monocrop to happen and, still get around the certification. But you said early on that monocrop was not allowed. What's the defining factor, I guess, of monocrop as it relates to being able to be certified or not?
Sure. So in the organic standards, there's a requirement that all farmers must rotate their crops. And so even if there might be an entire field filled with carrots for the 3-month period in which those carrots take to grow, there needs to be a different crop immediately planted after that. And that's how a lot of different farmers do it. They do, maybe they'll rotate their fields with 6 or 7 different crops in a year. So that is one way that the organic standards prevent monoculture. I'm sorry, was there a second part to your question?
No, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless it's an orchard or vineyard.
That's right. And in that case, many orchardists do cover crop on the floor of the orchard, and so that adds plant diversity in that way. And also adding organic compost helps to add a lot of biological diversity into the fields and into the orchards.
Right.
We have one more question on the chat here. Can you recommend any gold standard epidemiologic studies that show a positive correlation between organic and disease prevention?
I assume they mean between eating an organic diet and disease prevention, but
Yes.
perhaps, okay, because there are definitely studies showing how organic farming prevents diseases that are due to exposure to synthetic pesticides, particularly in children. And the dietary studies are in our benefits report in the nutrition section, and there are a few others that have come out since we published the benefits report, and I'm trying to remember the name. Friends of the Earth, the organization, did come out with a study earlier this year about the dietary connection.
We can circle back on that and dig it up and add that as a resource to the notes of this webinar for folks.
Okay, thank you.
We could also provide some of our health studies as well, like provide a couple that might be interesting for folks to read.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? We have a few more minutes here, and we'd be happy to answer anybody's questions. And certainly, you can contact our presenters directly on the emails that you see there, but you can also ask me if anything comes up later that you just want a burning question that you need answered.
I have two more quick questions. The first is, are you working with the California School Nursing Organization on the, specifically on the local organic school food thing?
Sure. So we are partnering with Natural Resources Defense Council, who has a broad coalition of like 40 organizations all working on this school lunch issue. And I can circulate that letter and see if there's specific organizations a part of it. I know that there are many health organizations. In fact, some of the folks you've heard from, like the Series Community Project, is signed on to that, and I'm sure others as well. So we're working in a broad coalition on this one. It's challenging with the budget issues surrounding COVID-19 right now.
No, I understand that, but you don't know specifically whether the California school nurses are involved. Because there's a National Association of School Nurses, and California is not part of that. It actually is its own separate organization. So all to say that we can help connect the dots there, because we work with school nurses in the state and we know some of their leadership.
Perfect.
So, and just one quick last question, which in the Central Valley and places like Stockton and Fresno, more and more land is being used for these gigantic distribution centers, Amazon, et cetera, and they're building them on what had previously been agricultural lands. Is there any attempt to preserve agricultural lands from continual build out?
So yes, we do have policy recommendations specifically around land conservation, where we are losing farmland. And so right. Yes, we talked about the need to transition our existing farmland to organic, but we also just need to conserve our farmland. And so there are a number of recommendations that we have to think through some of the existing programs, such as the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program, which is a state program in California to help conserve land. And that's actually an issue that we're turning to next to really dig into and try to figure out how CCOF can add value to this space.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Looks like we're at the hour.
We are. So thank you so much, Laetitia and Rebekah, for joining us today. As we mentioned, we will post this webinar on the Annie website for those who want to share with colleagues or just go back to it later, and we'll share the resources as well that these lovely ladies have included. And we have our next call. Next month is actually a call for our Food and Ag Committee. If you haven't added to that Google Doc that was circulated around with resources and options for presenting, if that's of interest to you, please do so before that meeting. And it looks like we will be meeting you for that call on June 1st at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we will talk to you next month. Thank you again to our presenters. Take good care.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.